Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. Christ has ascended in glory. On June 3rd, we commemorate St. Lucillian of Byzantium, the four martyred youths, and Paula the Virgin, St. Athanasios the Wonderworker, and St. Kevin, the Abbot of Glendalough. Regarding St. Lucillian of Byzantium, formerly a priest of the idols near Nicomedia, the saint came to the Christian faith in his old age. This was during the reign of Aurelian. Lucillian was brought before Sylvan the Count. When he refused to return to the service of the idols, his jaw was broken. He was beat with rods and hanged upside down, then imprisoned with 4 Christians, who were all children: Claudius, Hypatius, Paul, and Dionysius. All of them were brought out again before Sylvan. Remaining constant in their faith, were cast into a raging furnace. Preserved unharmed, they were sent to Byzantium, where the children were beheaded, and Lucillian was crucified. The Virgin Paula, a Christian, buried their holy relics. For this, she was taken before the Count, and refusing to sacrifice to the idols, was stripped naked and mercilessly thrashed. After other torments, she was beheaded in 270. There was a church in their honor in Constantinople. Let us all entreat Christ the Lord's holy martyrs, for they make supplication for our soul's salvation. With faith, with longing, therefore let us draw nigh unto them, for they overflow with the divine grace of healings, and they drive away the ranks of demons and terrors as guardians of the faith. Regarding St. Kevin of Glendalough, St. Kevin was born in the year 498 in the Irish province of Leinster to noble parents, perhaps even descendants of the kings of Leinster. Tradition holds that when he was born, his mother felt no labor pains, and the snow that fell on the day of his birth melted as it fell around the house. An angel is said to have appeared during the child's baptism, telling his parents that the child should be named Kevin. St. Cronan, the officiating priest, said, "This was surely an angel of the Lord, and as he named the child, so shall he be called." So the babe was baptized Kevin. Cogman in the Irish tongue, which means he of blessed birth, is the first person in history to be called Kevin. His childhood was marked by a horrible temper and dislike of other people, although he loved animals. This is one of the reasons why St. Kevin is one of the patron saints of animals. At the age of 7, his parents sent him to the monastery run by St. Petra in Cornwall, while there, Kevin was kneeling, his arms outstretched in prayer, on the first day of Lent in a small hut in the wilderness, when a blackbird landed in his palm and proceeded to construct a nest. Kevin remained perfectly still so as to not disturb the bird. For the whole of Lent, Kevin was fed by the blackbird with berries and nuts. By the end of Lent, the blackbird hatchlings had flown from the nest, which now lay empty in his hand, and Kevin returned to the monastery for the Paschal celebration. After being ordained to the priesthood, Kevin spent 7 years as a hermit in the mountains surrounding Glendalough, which comes from the Gaelic word glen, meaning valley, and lough, meaning lake, meaning valley of the 2 lakes. He lived in a small 5x7 by 3-foot cave, now known as St. Kevin's Bed, which was, legend holds, shown to him by an angel. His life was spent in prayer and self-denial, and he lived off herbs and fish. An otter that lived in the lake would bring Kevin whatever Kevin visited the lake, which he did in the winter, when he would stand up to his neck in the ice-cold water to pray. During one of these sessions of prayer in the upper lake of Glendalough, which he preferred to the lower lake because it was much more remote and colder, he dropped his breviary into the lake. An otter appeared from the bottom of the lake with the prayer book, unstained and damaged in any way, in its mouth. Henceforth, the otter would bring fish to Kevin for food. Kevin returned to society when a farmer named Dima followed a cow of his who would constantly wander off. The cow would come every day when the herd was sent out to pasture to St. Kevin's cave and lick his clothes and feet while he was in prayer. When the cow returned at evening, she would produce unbelievable amounts of milk. Dima, wondering greatly about this, one day resolved to follow the cow. When Dima stumbled upon Kevin's cave and saw what was the cause of this, he fell to his knees in penitence. Kevin raised him up, and as Dima was a pagan, taught the farmer about Christ and the gospel. Dima eventually begged Kevin to come out of his isolation and teach his family about Christ. After a day of prayer, Kevin saw that it was God's will that he return to society to spread the gospel. He began by teaching Dima's family, but his tutelage soon grew to dozens of families, and he began to attract followers. And so, seeing the need of a central place from which to teach, Kevin decided to establish a monastery. However, Kevin could not establish a monastery since King O'Toole of Glendalough, a pagan, would not allow it. It happened that the king had a much-beloved pet goose, which was now old and gray. As time passed, the goose also became so aged and weak that it was soon unable to fly. As a result, the king was very upset, for he loved the goose very much. Hearing of Kevin's sanctity and power, the pagan king sent for him and asked that he make the beloved goose young. Kevin asked for a payment of whatever land the goose would fly over. As the goose could no longer take flight, O'Toole agreed. When Kevin touched the bird, it grew young and flew over the entire valley of Glendalough, and on that site the monastery was established. Rocks were plentiful. The farmers pitched in and built Kevin a monastery in the solitude of Glendalough. The workers agreed to work from when the larks woke till the lambs slept. The grueling work schedule began to affect the quality of construction, and Kevin decided to investigate. It turned out that the larks were apt to rise unfashionably early, and so Kevin told them not to. That day forth, no skylark ever has been heard in Glendalough. The construction continued, and the monastery was complete. Soon other monks came to help teach all who had come to learn, old and young, rich and poor alike. More buildings were added to the little settlement. Among them was the famous tower, which still stands today along with the large huts used by St. Kevin. Many people from far afield came to Kevin for advice, which he gave freely, and the monastery grew to such fame and renown that it was considered equal to a pilgrimage to Rome for a penitent to travel 7 times to Glendalough Monastery. It is said of Kevin that he was the fulfillment of the prophecy of St. Patrick, that he was the one to come who would evangelize the region of Ireland just south of Dublin. Kevin went once upon the founding of his monastery to Rome, where he received relics for the monastery. Many years later, his hair and beard white but his eyes sparkling, and his step quick and firm, he felt the desire to go once again to Rome. However, he also knew he was bound to the duties of the abbot as the abbot of the monastery. He went for advice to his old friend Bishop Keeman of Pluminois. Ireland understood Kevin's longing, but he knew that it was better for one's missionary to train many others than to leave others half-trained in order to go to the missions himself. Birds do not hatch their eggs while they are flying, Keeman said. Kevin saw that not to go was a sacrifice, and he knew now where God's will lay. So Kevin continued to teach and advise everyone who came to him until the peaceful June night in 618, when his soul sped heavenward to join the angels and saints around God's throne. The precise location of Kevin's grave is lost, although it is said that at dusk, when no one is about, blackbirds will flock to an unmarked cross above a forgotten grave, the grave of a wild boy who held the blackbird's nest in his unwearying outstretched hands for 40 days. Because of St. Kevin's affinity for animals, there are many miracles that are attached to him. It is said that a hunting party was chasing a boar with hounds. The boar came upon St. Kevin in prayer beneath a tree and laid down at his feet. The hounds, when they saw the boar at Kevin's feet, also lay down near the saint, not daring to approach the boar while it was under Kevin's protection. The men decided to ignore these signs and to go ahead and slay the boar. However, a flock of birds landed on the tree, and the hunters took this as a sign and left the boar with Kevin. Thou wast privileged to live to the age of saints, O Father Kevin, being baptized by one saint, taught by another, and buried by a third. Pray to God that he will raise up saints in the hour and the day to our help, support, and guide us to the way of salvation. The readings are according to the week. From Acts of the Apostles. In those days Paul took the men, and the next day he purified himself with them and went into the temple to give notice when the days of purification would be fulfilled, and the offering presented for every one of them. When the 7 days were almost completed, the Jews from Asia, who had seen him in the temple, stirred up all the crowd and laid hands on him, crying, "Men of Israel, help! This is the man who is teaching men everywhere against the people and the law and this place. Moreover, he also brought Greeks into the temple, and he has defiled this holy place." They had previously seen Trophimus the Ephesian with him in the city, and they supposed that Paul had brought him into the temple. Then all the city was aroused, and the people ran together. They seized Paul and dragged him out of the temple, and at once the gates were shut. And as they were trying to kill him, word came to the tribune of the cohort that all Jerusalem was in confusion. So this is the Roman person that is in charge of the city. He at once took soldiers and centurions and ran down to them. And when they saw the tribune and the soldiers, they stopped beating Paul. The Gospel according to St. John. The Lord said to his disciples, "The hour is coming when whoever kills you will think he is offering service to God. They will do this because they have not known the Father nor me. But I have said these things to you, that when their hour comes, you may remember that I told you of them." I did not say these things to you from the beginning, because I was with you. But now I am going to him who sent me. Yet none of you asks me, where are you going? Because I have said these things to you, sorrow filled your heart. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth, it is to your advantage that I go away. For if I do not go away, the Counselor will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you. And when he comes, he will convince the world concerning sin and righteousness and judgment. Concerning sin, because they do not believe in me. Therefore they are sinful. Concerning righteousness, because I go to the Father, and as the righteous sacrifice, he's allowing us to come with him, and you will see me no more. Concerning judgment, because the ruler of this world is judged. No longer will Satan have power over this world. I have yet many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you in all the truth. This is important for us to understand because oftentimes we speak about the Holy Spirit as an object, a spirit. In the reality, it is he. It is the third person of the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It is a person. He has personality. And the Holy Spirit is what we interact with most often. I hope that you've enjoyed today's Spiritual Calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.